Oh, M. Night, you and your movies. What is happening, guys? Back at you with another video. So we recently had the newest M. Night Shyamalan movie, Trap, now in theaters. If you haven't checked out my review for that movie, go check it out now on the channel. But in this video, I'm going to be ranking all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. So in preparation for this video, I did rewatch and actually watch for the first time some of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. So this will be a fresh take on all those movies in this ranking. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Coming in at the bottom, of course, is going to be Last Airbender. And do I really need to say too much about this movie that hasn't been said already? You know, I'm a big Avatar The Last Airbender fan, so I did see this movie whenever it came out, but I didn't rewatch it over this past recent rewatching. Man, what to say about this movie? This was such a bad adaptation. The way they were trying to fit a whole first season of the show within under 2 hours. The way that they just had these characters and bad acting going on. Not so good effects going on either. This was just a, man, just did a bad job of this movie and just trying to adapt the whole story, which is like one of the greatest animated shows of all time. And it's like, man, I don't even want to watch this movie ever again. I don't even want to talk about it again. Going on to the next movie on the list, and that's going to be Praying with Anger. Now, this was a first time watch, and this was actually, I believe, M. Night Shyamalan's first directed movie. At least that's what it was saying, that it's his first directed movie. And I don't know if it was because this watching it on a phone. I had to watch this on my phone, and it was like at 720 or lower P resolution, whatever. I don't know if that hindered my experience, but I couldn't really connect with this movie, and it kind of felt like your typical run-of-the-mill kind of movie. You know, this was his like first directed movie, so you could see those early like signs of like him just basically just directing this plain Jane kind of movie. You don't really see his style or anything going on in this movie just yet, or anything like that. And he's starring in this movie too. This is his movie that he directed, and he also starred in it as the main character. So really nothing was going on in this movie too much. You know, I didn't really connect with this movie on any level. So yeah, I mean, it's a movie. It's a movie. I'll say that much. Next up is going to be The Visit, and this was a first time watch for me. What to say about this movie? This movie was basically a found footage movie. You know, you have the girl that's basically filming, I guess, a sort of documentary about her life. She goes to visit her grandparents, and she's basically filming these mundane, everyday lifestyle that they have there, that they're doing. You know, from cleaning the house to farm work and just driving around the town and all that. And honestly, this movie was just plain boring to me. I could not get interested in it. And really, the only thing that was interesting, at least a little interesting about this movie, was the whole twist that we got towards the end. That was the only interesting thing about this movie, but that does not save the movie for me. The rest of the movie was still boring. It felt like a slog to get through. It just dragged that many times. I mean, a couple things happen here and there where the grandparents are like acting weird, especially when it comes to like them being up at nighttime and they just start acting weird and all that. So it was a bit weird and got a little disgusting at times. There are a couple of parts in here where I was like kind of disgusted by, but other than that, the twist, I guess the twist was kind of a good thing. I don't know. Other than that, other than the twist, really, this movie was just plain boring, and honestly, I don't even really see myself going back to rewatch this movie at all. Next up was another first time watch, and that is going to be The Lady in the Water. With this one, I would say it's not a very good movie. It's not very good. It's not great or anything like that. And it was like, I was kind of curious and interested for some parts. I just wanted to see basically how stuff played out. I wasn't really interested in the characters too much. I wasn't really interested in the main plot that was kind of going on. But I was kind of interested in seeing how, okay, we got these characters, we got some stuff. Let's see how it all ends. You know, I was kind of curious and interested in seeing how everything just plays out and ends out. But other than that, this movie was not really that great. It wasn't very good. And the way that I noticed something in the movie to where like there's the way that this plays out. This movie is like really kind of delving into like fantasy and all that, and the way that this story is set up to where it's like these people in this apartment complex building are supposed to be different characters to help this you know, fantasy creature played by Bryce Dallas Howard, to help her return home. And there's like wolf thingy that comes out and attacks them or whatever at times. But the funny thing about this movie was that there was a character in there that was supposed to be like a writer, and it was supposed to be like he was like supposed to be like some sort of messiah or prophet, or like, you know, the things that he wrote is like going to change the world or something like that. And the funny part about it is that they're, you know, building this writer up so much, and they're talking so much about it, how he's going to change. And lo and behold, who ends up playing the writer character in the movie? M. Night Shyamalan himself. So I found that kind of funny that he would like put himself in this movie and make himself the, you know, the writer that's going to change the world with his writings and stuff. It's kind of funny to me that he would just do that. But other than that, this wasn't a really great movie or anything like that. But I had a little curiosity with it when it came to like just find out how everything played out. And we get to another first time watch for me, and that's going to be Wide Awake. Now this was I would say interesting movie, but it was definitely this movie really plays out like a 90s dramedy, to where you do get comedy, you get some drama in there, and it feels like it's supposed to be sort of a family film, but it's a hard-hitting family film that doesn't seem like it'll kind of reach the audience of younger kids or anything like that. Like, it comes at you and it gears, like, it seems like it's supposed to be a family dramedy of sorts, like a family movie in a way that, you know, the whole family could watch. But it does have some hard-hitting stuff to, like, where kids might not necessarily understand, or, you know, they might not get what they're trying to do in this movie. But, you know, basically you have this little kid, this boy, whose grandpa passed away, and basically throughout the movie he's trying to search for God. Basically he's trying to believe in faith and trying to search for God, and that's when it gets like heavy-handed, to where it's like it's very hard-hitting, it's very emotional at times, but it does play out like a comedy in a way, or basically like a dramedy in a way. And I just don't see this as like a family type movie to where you can watch it with the whole family or anything like that. Like, it tries to play out like that, but it doesn't really come across as that, really. You know, there's a couple of hard-hitting things in here to where, you know, you do have this boy trying to find and trying to search for God and believe in his faith and believe that his grandpa is, you know, eternally saved and all. But it just comes across as like, you know, this heavy-hitting kind of dramedy going on. It wasn't a bad movie. I don't think it was a bad movie, but it definitely was not one that I probably will go back to rewatch or anything. And yeah, I mean, it was just hard hitting at times. All right, we get to another movie, and this movie is I know it's not a comedy, but I kind of laugh at it a lot, and that's going to be The Happening. The Happening, with, you know, starring Mark Wahlberg, and what to say about this movie? I rewatched this movie recently, and I haven't seen it in probably a good 10 plus years. And every time I watch this movie, I mean, I haven't watched this movie a whole lot, but every time I watch this movie, I just cannot help myself from laughing at this movie. Like, I know it's not supposed to be a comedy or anything like that, but that's the way I see it. Like, I watch this movie, and it's such a bad movie that it's actually entertaining on how bad it actually is. The way that Mark Wahlberg plays this role and acts in this movie, like, he comes across as like sort of sarcastic, and the acting is kind of bad too in this movie at times, and it's just funny to see that in this movie, and it's just funny. Like, I just watch this and I just get a laugh out of it, you know. Like, I could watch this movie and not even be bored with it, because it's just such a bad movie that you get entertainment out of it because it's so bad. It's so bad, and it's like, it's just funny at times in this movie. We get to another first time watch for me, and that's going to be The Village. Now, I heard some stuff about this movie. I heard that this was like kind of the turning point in M. Night Shyamalan's career, where people start to see his kind of, you know, see that he was kind of losing steam. You know, he had a couple of good movies right before this movie, and then people were starting to see this movie and say that this was where he was losing steam, to where this movie wasn't that good. I would say this movie wasn't, I wasn't bored with this movie. I'll say that much. You know, it's at least a decent thing to say if I wasn't bored with the movie, because you at least did something. You know, you did something. I'll say the twist is not very compelling in this movie, and I kind of heard a little tidbits about this twist beforehand, before watching this movie, and it's not a compelling twist. You know, I mean, kind of, I wouldn't say it was very interesting, but it did kind of drag at some parts also, and overall, I wouldn't say I'm glad I watched it, at least watched it for the first time, but I would say at least I watched it. At least I did watch it and see what everybody was talking about, you know, with this being said that this was his turning point into making bad movies. So at least I watched it, and I could see what people were saying about this. And we get to the nepotism film, and I'm talking about After Earth, starring Will Smith and Jaden Smith. This is nepotism at its finest, where Will Smith basically was trying to push, Jaden into becoming this actor and trying to put that on display, and it just comes across as bad. Jaden could not be able to act to save his life in this movie. The way that Will Smith plays his character, where it's like it seemed like they both were trying to put on an accent or something. I don't know what were thinking or exactly what they're trying to do. But the way that Will Smith plays his character to where he's basically injured for a majority of the movie, and he's just sitting there and just guiding his son to get to the other part of the ship, whatever, to save them. And there's that monster out on the loose and all that. But the way that Will Smith plays this character to where he's very stoic, he's very unemotional, and this is definitely not one of his better roles in a movie that he's been in. And like I said, nepotism at its finest in this movie, to where he was trying to push his son out to, see it, show people that he's an actor, or trying to push him to make people believe he's an actor. And it's kind of funny to me that he would do that. And we get to Ode, and this was I believe this was my second time. This was my second time rewatching this movie, because I know it came out a few years ago, and I did watch it a little bit after it came out, but I decided to go ahead and just check it out again, do a little rewatch on it. So it's basically my second time watching this again. And I gotta say, this one is a movie to where it has an interesting concept, but not the strongest of execution. Like, I wouldn't say I like the premise or anything like that, but it has an interesting concept to where you have this group of people who are stranded on this beach, and basically they age quickly, or time is passing quickly to where they're aging quickly. And it has a lot of interesting things in this movie to where, especially when they're like one part is like somebody gets a disease or tetanus, I think it was, and you can literally see it, the body horror. You literally see the virus or whatever the disease is rushing through his veins. You see all the way through his body, and it's like an interesting concept, because it's like it's aging. The time is passing by so fast here, so that even though it would have taken, in regular time, it would have taken a little longer to process all that. The way that this, island, or this beach is, time is passing by so fast, you can literally see it happen in seconds. Or somebody breaks their bones, and it literally sets, if it heals back up, and it sets that way to where it's like it's all crooked, or it's out of place, or anything like that. So a lot of interesting concept things going on in this movie, but the way that the twist plays out, it's an interesting twist, but it's not a very strong twist, if you know what I mean. Like, it's interesting to see that these people are testing out these groups, and they send different groups. They were showing different groups, and they're basically testing out these medicines to see how they would react, and how they are able to produce them and all. So it has interesting things. It does have some interesting things, and I would say I'm not bored watching this movie. I don't hate my time watching this movie. It's a watchable movie. I could get through it and watch it, but it's not a great movie, and it just doesn't have the strongest of executions when it comes to its premise, but it does have some interesting concept going on in there. And we get to Knock at the Cabin. This was actually one of the movies I did not rewatch, because it just came out last year, and I remember watching it last year, so it's still kind of somewhat fresh on my mind. So I basically know exactly what happens in the movie, and basically remember what my thoughts are on it. And with this movie, it's definitely a frustrating one. It's a frustrating one. But I will say, I do like the twist in this movie. The twist is very good. With the twist, the whole twist being that this movie needed a twist. This movie needed a twist so badly, and it just really is that's what makes it a frustrating one. Because you have everything that's going on in this movie, and the movie itself is not bad, but the way that this movie plays out, I really firmly believe it needed a twist to cap it all off. This movie could have definitely been higher on the list if it had that twist to sort of cap it off and make this a better experience of a movie with everything going on. Like, I don't think this is a bad movie or anything like that. And we get some great performances, especially from like Dave Bautista and the rest of the cast going on. But with all that being said, it really need a twist to be able to cap off that type of experience to where it could have been a good experience. And the way that M. Night Shyamalan's movies are, you always expecting that twist to go on. So when the way that he has this movie and literally just plays it straightforward to where there's no twist at the end or any twist coming up, and you're expecting a twist, it really sours the experience of this movie. And that's what it did exactly for me, to where it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting into this movie, the apocalypse, the Four Horsemen, everything like that, all those concepts and interesting ideas going on. Okay, so what's going to be the twist? What's going to be the big twist that's going to cap this all off and make this even more interesting? And lo and behold, There's no twist at all. They just go on their merry way, and that's it. That is it. So with this movie not having a twist, this really brings this movie down for me, down the list. Because if it had a twist, it would have been such a better experience going on. We get to M. Night Shyamalan's newest movie now in theaters with Trap. Now, a lot of people will probably say this one is another nepotism movie, because we get M. Night Shyamalan's daughter in this movie, and she is the pop singer that's in this movie. And, you know, you get a good chunk of her singing some songs throughout the movie. So, you know, a lot of people will say this is definitely nepotism at its finest, to where he's basically pushing his daughter onto us. Besides the point, besides that though, I would say this was definitely an interesting concept. I gotta say, I have all his movies. This one's definitely one of the higher ones when it comes to premise. When it comes to the premise, this is definitely a very high one on the list for me when it comes to his movies. Now, I don't have this movie itself high on the list, but the premise itself is what hooked me into this movie. It's where you got the killer, you got Josh Hartnett playing the butcher, the infamous serial killer, and they're trying to trap him at this concert. So that's an interesting premise to me. That's what hooked me into this movie to go and check it out. And a lot of good things. I think there's some good things in this movie, but there is definitely some not so good things in this movie. One of the things that you have to do to be able to watch this movie, if you're going to get some kind of entertainment, or at least some kind of something out of it, you really do have to go into this movie and suspend disbelief of any kind of logic. Because there is a lot of stuff in this movie that logically should not happen, or that logically do not make any sense. And I noticed that in the movie. I didn't really want to pay attention to that. I kind of was going into this movie and just shut my brain off, try to go in with it and just have some fun, or something with this movie. So really, when you're going into this movie, you just got to go along for the ride. Just be there just to be there and go along for the ride. Suspend disbelief in logic and all that. And maybe you find something good about this movie to where you might actually like it. I would say Josh Hartnett's performance in this movie is amazing. It's great. He's the highlight of this movie, to where he's able to play this character of the infamous serial killer in a way that he switches between these two different roles, to where he's this quirky dad taking his daughter to the concert, and then just like that, he switches up to being this calculating, intelligent serial killer, trying to evade the police, trying to escape from this concert. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting movie when you don't think about other stuff. I know this movie is definitely going to split some people. I can already tell, and I've already been seeing it, that this movie is splitting some people. A lot of people are saying that this movie, they don't like it, and they're pointing out the illogical stuff that's going on in this movie. And there's some other people trying to defend it, to where it's like, they think it's a great M. Night Shyamalan movie. I would say this is at least a decent M. Night Shyamalan movie. If you're able to look past all those things I just said. I was able to go into this movie and just, have some fun with it. Give me a little suspense and thrills kind of going on in this movie. So I was able to look past that. We get a great performance from Josh Hartnett, which is the highlight of the movie. So I'm able to look some past that stuff. I wouldn't say this is a movie to where it's like, to say that M. Night Shyamalan is back making great movies or anything like that. But I at least think this is a decent watch. It's a decent watch. Honestly, I would watch it again, because I just at least had some fun with this movie. And it's at least decently to watch. Get into the next movie, and that is going to be Glass. Now, this was actually a first-time watch for me also, and I didn't know the twist of this movie, but I know the twist of the other movies, or basically the whole Unbreakable trilogy. And I kind of started watching this first. The Unbreakable trilogy is the first thing I started watching of M. Night Shyamalan's movies over the recent weeks, whatever. So I already knew about Unbreakable, and I knew how Split was the secret, sequel to Unbreakable, but I didn't know exactly about this one, or the twist in this one. I will say the twist in this one is very interesting. I know a lot of people are against this movie, but I gotta say that this movie is not as bad as people say. I was kind of going into it and expecting something bad, and honestly, I did not get that with this experience with this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not a great movie or anything like that, but it's at least a decent watch. It's a decent watch. I could at least get invested into the story, invest in this movie, and see what happens. I do think the twist is interesting, to where, the way that this character of Glass, Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is a very interesting character. The way you're able to see that in Unbreakable, and then seeing now and here, and then the whole twist that was set up by him, and then he comes to the discovery of how he set that up. I will say this is definitely a step down from the first two movies of Unbreakable and Split. I definitely see that much for this movie. But I don't think this is overall a bad movie. I was interested in some stuff. I was interested in seeing, being able to see the character of Bruce Willis character, make his return in this movie. Seeing James McAvoy put on a great performance again, like he did in Split, and just interesting things going on in this movie. So I don't think this was a bad. I didn't have a bad time with this movie. I was able to get interested in it and seeing how it plays out, and be at least somewhat interested in the twist that happens. Now, this movie is a great M. Night Shyamalan movie. I say this one is definitely up there as one of M. Night Shyamalan's greatest movies. And with this one, we get a great performance by James McAvoy. He's able to play all these different personas that he has within him amazingly. Like, he's such an amazing part of this movie to where he's playing all these different personas, the way that he's able to switch in and out of them, the way that he literally plays them each differently, and you're able to believe what he's performing in this movie to where you actually believe he's all these different personalities that are going on. So I really did like this movie. I really did enjoy it. I think it's very interesting thing going on. And then the whole twist, I already knew about the twist in this movie to where this basically ties into Unbreakable and it, becomes a whole trilogy. So I already knew that twist going in. So I already knew that was going to happen at the end, or, at least sometime within the movie it was going to happen. So I just took this movie at its own value to where, okay, so I know the twist already. How is this movie going to hold up with me knowing the twist already and what's going to happen? At least eventually what's going to happen. And I gotta say, this movie turned out amazing. Like, it's great. I think this is definitely one of M. Night Shyamalan's best, latest, greatest movies that he's had. Over the past couple of years, this movie came out, 2016? That was probably the last year that he had this movie, or his greatest movie, at least a good, very good movie. And I think that's what this movie is, to where Split is a very good movie. It's amazing performance by James McAvoy. We got Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie also, so it's very interesting to where, you have this guy, he just kidnaps these group of girls, and they're trying to survive, and just the way that he plays these different personalities, the split personalities going on in this movie is very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I did enjoy this movie, and I liked it a lot. It's very good. Very good. It's very amazing. We get to Unbreakable, and this was a first-time watch, like I was saying before. This one is very interesting. I think this is a very interesting movie, and we get a great performance from Bruce Willis. And the way that this movie plays out, it really plays out like a superhero origin story for a movie. And it's very interesting in that concept, and that aspect is very interesting. It's where you have Bruce Willis' character who survives a train crash, and he's the only lone survivor left of this train crash. And from then on, that happens on the beginning, that he's the only survivor left. And from then on, he starts to, question things, and then Glass comes to him and saying, have you ever been sick? And starts asking all these weird questions. Have you ever been sick? Have you ever broken a bone? Have you ever been injured? And he starts to, put that together. He's like saying, have I ever been sick? Have I ever been injured? I mean, I've been in terrible accidents, but I've always come out of it, surviving, or, without a scratch or anything like that. So all those, the way he's processing that and looking back to that, and the way he's just thinking about it, examining it, and then this one scene where it's like he's lifting weights, and then he's telling his son, keep adding weights, and he's literally adding all the weights he had, and he's even putting paint cans on there too, to where it's like up a couple 100 pounds, and he's just lifted it with ease and all. And then the way he's just noticing all this stuff, and going back in his mind, going back through his past, and saying, I never been sick, I never been injured, or I never been fatally harmed or anything like that. And just starts thinking about this, and it's very interesting to go through this movie and then seeing him process that, and the way he's able to think, I might be one of these people that Mr. Glass is talking about, to where he's saying he believes in the comic books to being basically a representation of the real world, to where he believes there is superpowered beings out there, and he's thinking about, maybe I am one of these superpowered beings. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And I like the way it plays out like a sort of superhero origin story in a movie. I really like that, because I do like origin stories when it comes to different things like that for superheroes or characters. I do like origin stories. So the way that this movie plays out like a superhero origin story is very interesting to me. And just the way that Bruce Willis plays his character, and the way he's processing things and going through the movie, processing things, and finding out and coming to the realization that he might be one of these superpowered beings. So overall, this movie, I did enjoy it. I really did like it, and it's a very interesting movie, honestly. And it was good. It was good for a first time watch. And we get to the movie Signs. Now this one I haven't seen since I was a kid. I remember I watched it whenever, around the time it came out or a little bit after the time it came out. I remember actually being kind of scared of this movie a little bit as a kid. Well, I was a young kid, at that time when it came out. And of course, aliens are in this movie and all that stuff. So it can be a little, terrifying for our little kids to watch. But I remember just watching this movie as a kid, and I never went back to it to watch it. But I did recently rewatch it, and I wanted to be able to rewatch it since I haven't watched it since I was a kid. And it's definitely a different scope for me when I was rewatching it this time around. And this movie is very interesting. The way that this movie plays out as an alien invasion film, but really at its core, it's about this family. It's about a family and sort of a family drama in a sense. You got Mel Gibson playing this father who basically lost his faith, lost his wife, and is losing himself in a way. Throughout the film, you're trying to see him trying to get back to it, since it's only been a couple months since his wife passed. You see in the movie that throughout that he's trying to get back to that. He's trying to find himself again. He's trying to believe in something again. But overall, you got this family all together. You got his kids and his brother, I believe, or, the uncle that played by Joaquin Phoenix. And it's very interesting. This movie's very interesting upon this rewatch, to where it's like, you got this alien invasion going on, but really, if you're paying attention to it, it's really about this family. And it's really about a family drama that's going on, and a lack of faith, or, losing faith in something. And it's very interesting at that scope, with the backdrop of an alien invasion, of course, and the alien invasion going on around them. But I like how it is at its core and its center. It's focusing on his family, trying to recover from the loss of their mother. And it's very interesting in that aspect. It's very interesting in that way, to where it has all that. So I would say when it comes to this movie, this is one of M. Night Shyamalan's best written movies, to where you're actually interested and invested within the characters. This movie builds great tension, especially when it comes to like the alien invasion itself going on. You're able to get scary moments also here and there. So overall, those are some of the things why I put this movie so high. I would say this is definitely one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies, and why it's so high for me, because upon this rewatch, I just noticed those things about it. And this honestly is one of his best. And we get to the top spot for me, and that's going to be The Sixth Sense. This was a recent rewatch also for me, and I haven't really seen this one since I was a kid either. Like, I didn't remember it too much as a kid, because I was definitely very young when this movie came out. And I remember watching it as a kid, but I didn't remember too much from it, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid. And I already know the twist. This twist is definitely one of those twists it's just a zeitgeist in pop culture, to where everybody knows it. Basically, it's literally up there with Darth Vader is Luke's father, So I already knew the twists going into rewatch this movie. I already know what happens as the twist and what happens at the end and all that. But really, what I wanted to do with this movie was go into this movie, rewatching it, and see how does it hold up. Knowing that I know the twist already, how does it hold up without the twist? And I gotta say, with this movie, upon this recent rewatch, it holds up pretty good. I gotta say, it holds up pretty good. This movie is a great story going on with these two great characters. Bruce Willis, who's basically acting as a sort of therapist to this kid played by Haley Joel Osment. And they put on great performances. Even Toni Collette puts on a great performance in this movie also. So there's great performances going on in this movie. The way the story plays out in this movie, there's creepy, eerie tension going on in this movie also. You get those creepy, eerie scenes going on in this movie. And it's very well written when it comes to the story and the characters. And honestly, I believe this is definitely one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies. And this is one of those movies that gets talked about a lot when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan's filmography. There's a big three that people like to say that I've been hearing about that are M. Night Shyamalan's best movies, and it's this one. This one is one of those big three that people talk about, and I honestly believe it. That's why I put it at the top of the list, because this one is a well-written movie, great story, great characters. The twist, even though you know the twist, you're still able to get a great story and great movie experience out of this. And another interesting thing about this is that even though you know the twist, they do a great job, and I was noticing it with this recent rewatch, they do a great job of not giving twist away. They do a good job of, kind of deflecting, or kind of the way that things play out, to where it's like, it literally is not giving any hints or anything like that to the twist that's going to happen. And I could imagine watching this for the first time, if I didn't know the twist, or back when it came out, if I actually watched this and actually remember watching it, remember everything about this movie, watching it for the first time way back then, if I did, this would have been such a great movie to find out the twist and be like, it would have been a shocking twist. Honestly, it would have been a shocking twist. It probably is one of M. Night Shyamalan's greatest twists out of all his movies. But, like I said, knowing the twist already, besides that, this movie is still a great movie going on without the twist or knowing the twist ahead of time. This movie is still great and still holds up to this day, in my opinion. You know, great story, great characters, everything great all around this movie, and that's why I put it at the top of the list. So let me know down in the comments below, how would you rank M. Night Shyamalan's movies? I gotta say, it was definitely an interesting time watching these movies. These movies, you know, some that I rewatched, some that I've watched for the first time. It was definitely interesting being able to go through M. Night Shyamalan's filmography and check out these movies. And I just gotta say, it's an interesting time. He's definitely one of those directors for me that it's either a hit or a miss. He has some great movies, but there's definitely some movies in here that are not so great, or not so good. So yeah, he's definitely one of those directors that's like a hit or miss for me. But I gotta say, he does it time and time again. Whenever he comes out with an interesting concept or interesting premise, he's always able to hook me back in somehow. You know, somehow he hooks me back in and just makes me want to watch the movie. I gotta say, makes me want to watch the movie whenever he has an interesting concept or interesting premise that goes on. So I would at least say that for foreseeable future, that I would at least check out at least most of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. If it has that interesting concept or interesting premise going on, I probably would check the movies out, you know, and we'll see if he turns out to have another great movie. You know, we're seeing. We'll see if that happens. You know, he's had some hit or misses here and there, mostly misses for the past couple of years. So we'll see if he's able to still be able to put out a great movie. So we'll see. But yeah, like I was saying, let me know down in the comments below, how would you rank all these movies? But that's going to do it all for this video. Hopefully y'all all enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and turn notifications on so you know I post another video. Hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you on the next one.